Surveillance was once the stuff of dystopian fiction. Since the Snowden revelations, it is an institutional reality, yet psychology has not kept pace. The existing literature contains three critical gaps. It does not causally establish whether surveillance awareness erodes institutional trust. It has never examined whether that eroded trust is the mechanism through which surveillance shapes future engagements with that institution. And the effect of employer surveillance on institutional trust has been explicitly identified as unexplored. This matters because institutional trust is not merely an attitude, it is the infrastructure on which democratic societies function. When citizens trust government, they cooperate, comply, and participate. When employees trust employers, they engage and invest effort. Understanding whether surveillance quietly dismantles that infrastructure is not just an academic question, but a governance one. My proposed study asks three questions. Does reading about government surveillance reduce institutional trust compared to a control condition? And does reading about employer surveillance do the same? And does reduced trust mediate the relationship between surveillance awareness and future intentions to engage with those institutions? Drawing on contextual integrity theory, I hypothesize that government surveillance awareness reduces trust by violating citizens' expectations of appropriate information flow. Surveillance breaks the implicit social contract governing what institutions know about us. Drawing on psychological reactance theory, I hypothesize that employer surveillance awareness reduces trust by threatening autonomy. Monitoring is experienced as a restriction of freedom that generates psychological resistance. Finally, drawing on social exchange theory and theory of planned behavior, I hypothesize that this eroded trust then makes people less willing to engage with those institutions, because people withdraw when perceived reciprocity is damaged and then evaluate the institution more negatively. To test this, I propose a between subjects experiment with three conditions: government surveillance, employer surveillance, and a control condition. The between subjects design prevents surveillance priming from contaminating responses across conditions. Employed adults with regular internet use will be recruited and randomly assigned to read a short article regarding their assigned institution's surveillance practices. Institutional trust will be measured before and after reading the article to capture any change, alongside behavioral intentions and surveillance awareness as outcome variables. A perceived surveillance manipulation check will also be conducted to determine if the prime worked. I expect both surveillance conditions to show eroded institutional trust relative to the control condition, and that awareness-driven trust erosion will in turn reduce engagement intentions. If trust is confirmed as the mediating mechanism, these findings do not just fill a gap, but identify a precise psychological lever. Interventions aimed at transparency, oversight, or consent will become empirically justified tools for protecting the institutional trust on which democratic participation and organizational functioning depend on.